Welcome to Stuff You Missed in History Class, a production of iHeartRadio.
Hello and happy Friday. I'm Tracy V. Wilson.
And I'm Holly Fry.
We talked about Dorothy Arzner this week.
We sure did.
Back, you researched and wrote the Billy Burke episode where we had previously mentioned Dorothy Arzner.
Mm-hmm.
And when I looked back at that, I was trying to remember like what specifically we had said. And you had a little note in there that said, maybe a future episode. Finally, its own episode written by the opposite person from the person who wrote the Billy Burke episode.
Yeah. Sometimes I don't get to them. And you had asked me, are you doing this one? And I was like, no.
No.
So hooray for Tracy.
I also will say maybe a future episode and then forget that I ever said that.
Yeah.
Rediscover a person 5 years later and say, oh, yeah.
Aha.
So, number one, boy, did I love reading everything about Dorothy Arzner.
Mm-hmm.
I love all the pictures of Dorothy Arzner. I find her personal style to be great. I love the pictures.
Too.
I love the pictures of her like on a film set in a cowboy suit. Well, I was very into that.
I love a little themed dressing. I think it's super fun.
Yeah. I love that she was able to carve out a career for herself in Hollywood at a time when, because of her gender and her sexual orientation, like that would have been really hard for her. It is kind of speculative, but I do think that's one of the reasons that she just didn't want to talk about herself, and she didn't even want to talk about her work. And this included like doing publicity for a film, not wanting to discuss the immediate previous film, or even doing publicity for a film that just came out and not even really wanting to talk about that film anymore. So there was one interview that she gave in 1936, and they were asking about it, her work. And here's what she said, quote, "As far as I'm concerned, they are ancient history. The latest picture of mine, Craig's Wife, happens to be a hit, but why should I talk about it and think about it now? It's finished. I'm through with it. There's nothing more I can do about it, so why should I dwell on it?"
I understand this completely.
I understand this in terms of the way our podcasts work, but you tell me your understanding of it.
Yeah, same thing. I mean, it's like, it's one of those things where I feel like once you've put a thing out into the world, unless you're going to go back and edit it, which some creators do, talking about it a whole bunch just gets you hung up in it.
Sure.
And, potentially like, what are you going to answer someone who is like, but why didn't you blah, blah, blah? I just didn't.
Right. Yeah.
It's not going to change. And then also, she seems like somebody that was so, I'm trying to think of exactly the right word. She was very driven and focused in her work, which I think probably meant like, I'm busy thinking about the next thing. I don't really have time to retread.
Yeah, that makes sense too. Yeah. Yeah, I similarly will, like, if I make an actual error and someone alerts me to that error in something that I have done, yeah, I will correct that error.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's like, this should have been phrased in a very subtly different way, and it's not anything meaningful. And I'm like, if I continue to think about that for the next 10 years, all of my life will be regrets.
Yeah, I mean, it will block you from getting other good work done because your brain is occupied with an unshiftable gear. I mean, you can't.
Ruminations on things that have already happened.
I wonder, too, if she also just, like, was uncomfortable with accolades.
Oh, possibly. Yeah.
Because even when people are saying nice things about my work, I don't want to talk about it. That feels weird and self-indulgent and gross.
Yeah. Occasionally I will be somewhere being introduced to someone, and someone will like make a big deal about the podcast. And I'm like, I want to leave now. I'd like to go hide.
Usually say something very potty-mouthed and self-deprecating at that point.
Yeah. One of the books that I read for this did have that partial autobiography in it, as one of the sort of appendices. And we don't know for sure that she stopped writing because she got about to the point where she was going to meet Marion,
Mhm.
and how do you have an autobiography where you're not talking about that when that's a big part of your life? Again,
Right.
speculative, but totally makes sense. She worked on that, I think in about 1955, so after her film career was done, but, she still had some decades of her life left after that. Apparently, she was in a restaurant in 1973, which was, much closer to the end of her life, and, the server asked her when she was going to write her autobiography, and she said, "Never."
Yeah.
And I loved that. Anyway, this is one of the most fun to me episodes that I have worked on in a little bit.
Yeah, she's delightful.
I liked her a lot. We've not talked about her for very long, but I don't feel like I have a whole lot more to say. Some of her movies are lost, as we said. Some of her movies, you are able to find through streaming services and things like that. Some of them are old enough to be in the public domain, some not. I did watch some of the bullfighting footage
Mm.
that she intercut together. I kind of thought about what if I had a Dorothy Arzner film weekend and watched a bunch of Dorothy Arzner movies. I did not wind up doing that. Um, but I may still at some point check out various movies that I've not seen all of beyond the clips that I saw for the purposes of research here.
We talked about strawberry domestication.
We did. Some aspects of this reminded me a little bit of when we did that episode on Nix versus Hedden and the decision of whether tomatoes were a fruit or a vegetable.
Yeah.
Some similar stuff in there about which things are fruits and
Yeah, though to the best of my knowledge, there's never been a big yucky legal battle over this one.
I don't think so.
There are one thing that I wanted to mention is that it fell to you to read a section of the outline that featured the title of a book called The Great Herbal, and it's spelled in
Mhm.
very old-timey spellings when things were not standardized.
There's some
Of
E's where they don't typically go today.
Grete, and then herbal is ERBALL, I think. I don't have it handy in front of me. And the whole time I was doing research, every time I came across it, I called it the Great Hairball and made myself giggle. It's not that funny, but we find our joy where we can.
Yeah.
I also, one of the other things that made me think about this, I follow a lot of gardeners on social media, one of whom is this amazing English gardener named Simon Ackroyd, and he was pointing out he has a new book out that's about like how you can cultivate your own plants from things that you would buy for your grocery supply, like strawberries. And one is, like slicing off some of the exterior skin of a strawberry, letting it dry on a paper towel, and then when it's dry, you can scrape the seeds off and plant those, which I am in the middle of propagating, which is very exciting. But it really is easier to do it just from runners.
Yeah.
But you don't have the whole plant if you're buying a strawberry at the grocery store.
Right.
I also had a moment where those statistics we were reading at the end about each person eating an estimated 4.85 pounds of strawberries annually. I don't know if I believe that.
In which direction?
Both?
Okay.
And I think it's because like there are years of my life where I'll be like, yeah, strawberries, and I eat a ton of them. And then I could go 2 years without eating a strawberry.
Yeah.
So I just don't know how common they are in other people's diets.
I love strawberries and I love berries in general. And having gotten in the habit of trying to shop more locally when we are able, that means a lot of my berry consumption is now happening when the berries are in season in Massachusetts.
Right.
And the strawberry season in Massachusetts, unless you're somewhere where there's a big greenhouse set up and all of that, like it's not a long season.
No.
For strawberries in Massachusetts. But I do love them.
I like them. I'm, once again, we're back to the hydroponic garden.
Yeah.
So I can have, this is part of it. I want things year round.
Yeah.
And I don't love the idea of all of the the travel that fruits and vegetables have to go through and how long they are sitting in
Sure.
survival climate as they try to make their way, and all of the the waste that comes from those shipments. So if I could just grow them here at the house,
Yeah.
in my house, so I can mash them into cocktails.
Mhm.
Marvelous.
When I was living, in the Atlanta area, the first year I was going to have a nice little container garden out on the back patio, and I had gotten all these little plants, and it included a number of strawberry plants. I was so excited. And then I broke my leg and refused to ask anyone for help with anything, and so all of my plants died.
Yeah.
And I, have never since then made the same level of attempt at, like, growing food plants at home. I've grown other plants at various times, but not so much with the food plants. Did have a good herb garden on the
Yeah.
back deck here for a couple years.
You have a good climate for lettuce.
Do have a good climate for lettuce.
You could be growing lettuce all the time.
Yeah. I have put off any of my ongoing questions of growing things indoors because we are trying to track down a potential allergy situation with one of the cats. I'm just like
Mm.
trying not to introduce more things into the household for a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we mostly keep the cats out of the rooms where the plants are.
Oh, sure.
However, one of our newer cats, it's her habit in the mornings to walk all the plants with me while I check
No.
them.
I love that.
It's pretty cute. Really, she just wants to hang out in our bar all the time.
Yeah.
I don't know how I got a barfly cat, but I did, and that's fine with me. And that's where, like, our hydroponics are because I use them for garnish.
Yeah.
And she just wants to run in there. She'll sit there and cry at the door. Because she wants a drink. I don't know what she thinks is gonna happen, but it's pretty cute. But she has to be watched like a hawk because without any pre-sniff or investigation, she will run up to any plant and bite it.
Okay.
So we have to be careful and not.
Yeah.
I don't have anything right now that would be dangerous to
Yeah.
cats.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't want to risk it either.
To return to when I was living in Atlanta, one time I got a little container garden of succulents.
Oh, is that me or you?
And I came into the house with the succulents, and I returned to the car to get the second load of thing to bring in. And in the time that I was gone, Sestina just bit the end right off one of the succulent plants. And I made sure it was not a plant that was going to hurt her,
Uh-huh.
but it was probably very bitter because then she foamed at the mouth. And I was like, baby, you took the 1 minute I was not in the house to go take a bite out of this plant. And I'm sorry this happened to you, but this is a consequence.
Yeah, cats will always pick that one moment that you're not looking.
Yep.
And be like, you know what? I'm gonna raise some hell today. Here we
Mhm.
go.
I
Yeah.
love them.
Me too. Our newer babies are sort of hell raisers.
Yeah.
I will tell an unrelated to history story about them. We have talked, I think, on the show before about the Murphy door that we have that goes to my husband's office.
Uh-huh.
He had wanted one for a long time, and I bought him one for his birthday some years back. And so, when we first installed it, it was tricky to get the balance right so it could smoothly open and close. But it's quite heavy, and yet the new cats can easily open it. Which his office is not really organized in a way that's super safe for cats to run around in.
Right.
And also create just havoc. And so as a temporary fix, he put several heavy boxes in front of it, like when we're not here, intending it for it to be when we're not here. But no sooner had he put them up, and they're substantially heavy items. But one of the new ladies, who is a big, beautiful woman, she's a big cat, trotted down there, hip checked the boxes out of the way, and just walked right into his office like it was a minor annoyance. So we are still having to figure out how we work around that. They're diabolical, the new ladies. We love them, but they are a whole new level of tricky than we have dealt with since the years when Mr. Burns was a youth. They're like that level of tricky.
Yeah.
I sure like plant history, though.
Yeah.
I just love it.
Yeah.
I love it. And I like that there's a spy involved.
Yeah, when you told me you were working on an episode on strawberries, I was like, what is there to say historically about strawberries? And it was a delightful story. So
Spy missions. Yeah. They're very interesting. And the one thing that's interesting is that mission has been written about quite a lot throughout history.
yeah.
Which is nice. I always wonder when that happens because, other than Frazier's original book, which isn't like, hey, I was a spy. It's more like, hey, I was exploring these areas. I always wonder how much of it is colored by like the early write-ups of it that
Yeah.
have been reiterated throughout time, but there's no good way to go back and comparatively fact check that to reality.
Right.
But it's pretty widely accepted that he is the only one who brought those 5 plants back. So thanks to him
Hooray.
and Duchesne, because we love strawberries.
I love them a lot.
If this is your weekend coming up, I hope you eat something delicious, whether that's a strawberry or anything else. If you don't have time off, I still hope you eat something delicious that delights your palate and your soul, hopefully, and that maybe you share a meal with somebody because, look, in hard times, that's what's getting me through is meeting friends for dinner or having people over for drinks or whatever we got to do to keep the faith. We will be right back here tomorrow with a classic episode, and then on Monday we will have something brand new.
Stuff You Missed in History Class is a production of iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.